Welcome to another episode of the Palace Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Hey, Palace Huddlers. It's just me, Rob, this time. This episode ended up being a lot longer than what we expected. It was actually about an hour and a half. And rather than have one long video that people have to kind of go through, and I know I can break it up into chapters, we're just going to release this into 3 parts. So it's going to be 3 separate videos. This is going to be part 1. Part 1 is going to be us looking at the free agents that Ryan Poles had signed these past few days, and just kind of giving our take on what we thought. And then after part 1, go ahead and go check out part 2. Part 2 is going to be us looking at free agents that maybe Ryan Poles missed out on. Guys that we thought, probably should have been signed or could have been signed. Or guys that, the fan base thinks should have been signed, and maybe we don't agree. And then check out part 3. Part 3 is going to be, where do they go from here? Right? Where do they go to get offensive line help? Where do they go to get defensive line help? Where do they go to find a cornerback? Okay, it's kind of a shorter one, just an overview of it. But hope you check out all 3 parts. And remember, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. As soon as we hit 330 subscribers, we're well on our way. We will be giving out that free obvious shirt of your guys choosing, whoever wins. And then, hey, if you subscribe now, we got a giveaway. Going to be doing a jersey giveaway closer to the season. Got a big mark to hit for that one, but I think we can do it. All right. Remember, huddle up.
All right. Palace Huddlers, we are back. Our earlier segment, we looked at free agent signings that the Bears made, but we also are going to talk about maybe some that they weren't in on or didn't get. But before we do that, we did overlook the fact that this is episode 36. Not like a number that just shoots off the page or anything, but we do have one. What do you think, Bob?
DeAndre Houston Carson, everyone's favorite special teamer, right?
I mean, he performs when you need him. He knows what he's doing out there.
He's a
dependable.
Guy I'm hoping they bring back, to be honest.
I like it. So dependable, just like this podcast.
Nice. I like that segment. Segue.
So yeah, basically we're going to look at some of the free agents they either missed on or maybe didn't pursue. But we talked about, the trench is a very important part of what's been lacking on this team. Offense, defense, pick your choice.
They were the worst defensive line with 20 sacks, right? Last year, they were the worst offensive line from a sack perspective.
I believe 20 sacks was the team.
Yeah, the team.
That's
so the
even worse.
defensive line.
Right, that's
was
not even
worse.
worse.
Roquan had 4 and Brisker had 4.
Yes,
So
yes. I didn't want to throw under the bus that much.
all the way down.
Well, and let's be honest, sacks is not the only statistic, but it's not like they were getting too many pressures.
No, it's not like they were stopping the run.
Right.
They did nothing.
Well, and that's the only thing you could say. The O-line, I don't know how they actually ranked, but rushing the ball, they were one of the better O-lines.
Yes. What are we going off of? ESPN pass block win rate? Because that's just
and he's saying run blocking. Yeah, I know ESPN says they were good pass rate or pass block win rate.
Is that because when Fields is just scrambling around, he held it for 6 seconds?
I think that's really what that means is it's okay. They get their blocks a high percentage of the time, but when they don't, it's a sack.
So it's also only 2.5 seconds that you have to hold your block for.
But that's my point is when he's
so
running around, it looks like you held your block.
We're kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think I've seen Mustafa last season just got blown up by somebody. Yes. And ESPN counted that play as a win.
Good engagement.
Yes. Because it was 2.5 seconds. I think it might have been a blitzer coming from on the second level. And
no, it was I think it was against the Packers. Who's their interior rusher? I almost said Frank Clark.
He wrecks every game. I know who you're talking about.
And that's this just blew him up.
Yeah.
Just, whoop.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
the
point
segue
is
to
they
game
need to build
records on
the
the
trenches.
defensive line here. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have one of those.
No.
Right?
No.
I mean, maybe we do now with DeMarcus Walker. Maybe we do. Maybe I don't know. But we did not.
And Andrew Billings.
I mean,
That's the one you said you're more excited about.
but
anyway,
he's not a record.
Who'd they miss on?
He's just a guy to fill space. Who they missed on? There's two names. We all know the guy I wanted was Tremaine Jones. Tremaine Jones was the guy I was pounding the table for. But we talked this a couple weeks ago, like Javon Hargrave on a deal, like a shorter term
to
deal.
me, yeah,
that would have been fantastic.
That was your number
he's
one.
the one that got away from me. I'm not. I shouldn't say get away because let's be honest, he signed a monster deal with San Francisco.
And I was surprised.
So if he's got two offers on the table, same Bears 49ers, he's going to the 49ers, right? I mean, there's not much the Bears can do about that. But like the impact that he makes as a proven 3-tech, even at 30 years old, as they're building the rest of this defense, he's the guy that you put in the middle, the most important, I forget exactly what Eberflus says, but the most important position on the defense, you put that in there, and the young defensive line can kind of blend around him. I mean, he got, 4 years, 84?
84 million.
I mean, I was thinking 2 years, 44, something like that. Let's just get him in here and do that, but obviously he's going to take that.
So let me ask you,
the numbers were the same from a dollar standpoint.
Right.
It's just you and I
Shorter
were in
deal.
agreement that we thought it should be a shorter deal.
Exactly.
But let me ask you that then. If the Bears, you kind of implied that if the Bears had the same offer, it comes down to the player's choice, and he likely would choose San Francisco.
Right, every time.
But would you have wanted the Bears to offer 4 years, 84?
No, I don't know.
It doesn't
I don't know
match the other things
that's the
they're
thing.
doing.
Like
Right,
when you're
right.
talking about the vision for the team, he doesn't quite match the vision because of the age, right? But in terms of impact on the field, we're talking about one of the best players in his position, not just best player
Right.
available.
You're right.
Like that's the guy.
Is he also, though, we mentioned it with T.J. Edwards. Does he also kind of benefit from
Because he
being
played on a
around?
stacked defensive line.
Right?
Sure.
Like it's like the Alabama
Sure.
lineman. Like,
Sure. And then now he's going to San Francisco. They got
right. It's not like he's having a downgrade.
Yeah.
Right.
But had he come here,
Had he come here,
he's got to be the linchpin.
Yeah.
And you just said Eberflus is like, hey, you're the man now, which feels good, but you
Right.
also want talent around you.
And how many 34? Because he's going to be 34 in that final year. Granted, I'm sure they cut him before then, but like,
yeah,
how
the
many
way the
34-year-old
money works, I'm
defensive
sure they're
lineman?
happy to give him his
Yeah.
$50 million for the 2 years, and then whatever
Exactly.
happens those last two.
It probably is more like a 2-year
Right.
deal.
Well, they're hoping they're going for titles.
But it also doesn't sound like they were even in on Javon Hargrave. Like, I didn't hear any rumors, any chatter, anything about them
but I
being
mean,
in on Hargrave.
it's one of those things I don't think you ever would know.
See, but I was wondering about Tremaine Jones with that. Is it kind of accurate that he didn't want to come to the Bears, or is that not the story?
I mean,
Because he signed 3 years, 51 and a half.
Yeah, so everything that I was reading from guys in Denver is that it was between Cleveland and Chicago. And to me, I thought Cleveland was the front runner. Right? He ends up in Seattle.
I see it ending that way.
I thought for sure Cleveland would be the front runner. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. Like, I feel like they would overpay before Chicago would overpay. It made more sense to me that he would go there. Seattle came out of nowhere. No one was talking about Seattle. They were the surprise team. But at least we did know that Chicago was involved. I don't think they offered enough money. I think what happened is they got to a certain dollar amount and they were like, we're done. Like, here's what it is. And Seattle came in and swooped him. Because I think he got 17.5 per year, which honestly was right where everyone was saying he wanted to be.
Right, yeah, 18.
16 to 18.
Yeah.
I mean, for all we know, they might have DeMarcus Walker as a better player than Tremaine Jones for what they want. I mean, like you said, Bob, we don't see it in the stats, but they're looking at more than just the stats.
Right.
They're looking at completely how you fit. And I just didn't get the sense that maybe he was as targeted as we wanted him to be. But we're sitting on couches talking about this, and this is their livelihood. So
that's my livelihood too.
that's true. That's true. That's true. You're right.
Pretty soon, I'm telling
you,
you,
got kids to feed.
When we hit that 1 million subscribers and my wife leaves me, don't be surprised when I'm on an island.
That's tradition. So we go to the other side of the ball.
Yeah, this is actually going a little bit faster than I would thought. But yeah, I mean,
well, I can go back on Tremaine Jones for just a little bit. I mean, we're friends. We get along with a lot of things, but I actually kind of oppose this podcast stance a little bit on Tremaine Jones.
Sure.
I didn't think that he was the guy you kind of got to go all in on. I mean, I know that, he's being talked as an ascending player, a young guy, but he's still got a lot to prove. And so, what if he plateaus here? Now you did sign a 3-year contract for a guy who we might have gotten in, the guy from the Titans, but now you're locked into this, and that prevents you from making another move 2 or 3 years down the line when you're really trying to compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, right now, I think it's guys that 100% fit into your vision of that, 2025 team that's going to compete for a Super Bowl, or it's just kind of like 1-year deals.
I'm glad you said it that way, because there are a lot of fans who just want them to go after every player.
Especially the names that are like really hot in the
Right.
media.
And that's what, like, actually in my notes, this Draymond Jones thing kind of reminded me a bit of the Ryan Bates thing last year.
Yeah.
Like, you remember Ryan Bates, right? Every Bears fan wanted him. The fact that they didn't get him for Buffalo was like the worst thing ever, but you only wanted him because he was like available. It's not necessarily that he was so good. Not to say he's a bad player. He would have been fine.
This podcast did not exist at the time. Wait, did it? Was I talking about this with Jeremy? I might have been talking about this with Jeremy, but I am on record in multiple places that James Daniels, not the quarterback, I've had too many Jameson and Cokes, that James Daniels should have been here, was not a downgrade, was a very good guard, and he proved it in Pittsburgh this year. I know he's not a perfect scheme fit.
I actually think he does fit this vision of that 6'4", 315-pound, strong, quick, athletic lineman. I do think what he got caught up in was trying to play the compensation pick game.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he signed guys like Byron Pringle and stuff that kind of, got in the way of actually winning a compensation pick. But I think that was one of those things. I'll find another James Daniel, give me the compensation pick, and it didn't work out.
See, but I'm glad the way you framed it, Bob, makes a lot of sense. As I was saying, like, fans want him to just, we got the most cap space, go after every big name. This team lost the most games of any NFL team last season. They slotted in at the number 1 pick. So as much as we want them to go into the draft and be like, yeah, we've filled every hole and we can just draft the best player available, to think that the team that earned, they had a little help, they earned the number 1 pick by being pretty terrible.
Being the worst team at winning.
Isn't going to fill everything. And if you do, you're overreaching, you're paying for past performance, you're going to regret it down the line, you're going to be in cap hell. He's playing the long game. He wants to build this thing through the draft. I still believe that with these signings. It's just to match up with other young players that you develop.
Had a conversation many times about how this is not a Super Bowl building team for 2023. And in our vision, it's 2024. Our hope is that they get, into that 6 to 8, maybe we get lucky 9, 10 wins.
That's what, like this year, 2023, can we get to 9 wins? Can we get to 9 wins? 2024, can we compete for the division? Yeah. And 2025 is, hey, let's be a Super Bowl favorite in 2025.
Packers might be taking a step back. Vikings were pretty lucky, so you should be competing next year.
You mean this year?
I still think we're clearly
I don't know.
Jordan Love and the Packers.
So I don't think we can have this discussion now. I don't know where to fit in, but I don't think it's fair to just write off Jordan Love already.
Throw us in.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
All right.
And we're back.
Hey, even the best.
Oh, sorry. Whoops.
Hey, we don't have a producer. We don't have a budget. Like, even the best shows have issues.
You're not being
time
paid.
to time.
You know that?
That's fine. I got some whiskey on it.
Did you break it?
It's all right.
I figured we'd just do it on the show. You can't run away.
So, I don't know. Either Bob's Jordan Love take broke the podcast.
Broke the internet.
I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm just saying the stability you've had of having Aaron Rodgers as your number 1
understand that,
guy.
but just compared to the conversation we just had about the Bears literally being the worst team in the league, to like, you still have all pro quality players on the Packers roster. You don't know what you're getting out of Jordan Love. I understand that maybe he is terrible, but he showed some flashes. I know some of kind of fluky, but
you should compete, with these teams. I hope.
But I mean, the Lions are ascending. The Vikings are still very much okay, right?
They still have Justin Jefferson makes them
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I am not on the Jordan Love bandwagon. I think he's going to finally bring that Packers organization back down to its knees.
Well, you keep talking about a script, and so far their script is Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, no. There's no script.
Okay, I agree. There's no
or the
script
is being changed. We're rewriting history.
There you go. Like Hamilton.
That's right. All right, let's go to the offensive side, the other side of the trenches. Clearly, the Chicago Bears need a right tackle upgrade, right? We got Alex Leatherwood. We have no idea what we have in him. They have Larry Borum, which we do know what they have in him. He's just average. Do they have to move Tevin Jenkins back out to right
maybe
tackle?
That's one iteration that works, giving him a shot at a tackle again.
I think most of us thought they would target a right tackle in free agency, and there were 3 big names. So I'm going to quickly go over them and give you my quick little take before I throw it over to these guys. But so there's Mike McGlinchey, who signed a $17.5 million per year deal. Juwan Taylor, who signed with the Chiefs. He has now actually been moved to their left tackle, according to reports. He's at $20 million per year. And then Orlando Brown at $16 million per year is now with the Cincinnati Bengals. My guess is he's also going to be playing left tackle because that's what he was pushing for. And when I look at these 3, McGlinchey was the guy who was just the average all around, isn't really bad at anything, but not great at anything type of right tackle. Juwan Taylor he had elite pass blocking traits, which to me, I think Bob actually convinced me over the last couple of weeks. He was actually more my guy because let's keep Justin Fields upright and maybe the running scheme.
And I think the scheme, we talk about our offensive line is bad, but they were objectively a good run blocking team. So maybe just how we do things, you can make his run blocking better.
Exactly. And then Orlando Brown was I'm sorry, McGarry was the other one. I didn't think
you were going to bring up Brown.
I think it's because maybe the contract he actually ended up signing. Or let's forget that we were.
So Caleb McGarry stayed in Atlanta, and he's the opposite of Juwan Taylor. I keep saying if you can make McGarry and Taylor one perfect offensive tackle, he'd be elite because he was really good at run blocking and horrible at pass blocking. Orlando Brown is just not a scheme fit, really. He's pushing to be a left tackle because that's what his dad was. He would probably be an elite right tackle if he would just stick to that spot. But Justin, what's your thoughts?
When you framed it the way you were, I was like, wait a minute. Is he going to bring up Orlando Brown as a right tackle? Because in our mock, we said you bring him in and you anchor him at left.
Yeah.
Even though schematically, that's not what they wanted to do. And it sounds like a lot of teams maybe. I don't know if that was overblown or what that was.
Like he took less money to play left tackle.
Well, he did take $31 million signing bonus.
Right.
So
which is the highest.
Exactly. So I think that was kind of maneuvering the cap maybe with Cincinnati a bit. But if you were signing him, you probably were going to have to put him at left tackle. And then the question is, Braxton Jones showed you what you wanted to see and is ascending in a particular position. Throwing a guy over on the other side of the line is not as simple as it is in Madden, on their number goes down one point overall. You're cool with that. But there's a whole different technique. There's a whole different way of conceptualizing what you're doing. And some guys can make that switch and some guys can't. So it was bringing in a guy you had questions about at a very high price and then creating more questions. So as time went on, I kind of backed down on that thought. But now just talking about McGlinchey and Taylor, one important thing to look at with McGlinchey, 28 years old compared to Taylor at 25. I was excited about the possibility of McGlinchey, not at 5 years, $87.5 million. So no thank you at that price. You move on to what else you can do. Taylor, I think, was a little bit more of a bummer, but again, he's now playing for the Super Bowl champion team that could go on to win multiple titles.
Right. And again, it signed a massive contract. Yeah. So let's just say the Bears were in on Juwan Taylor, 2 contracts in front of him. Where are you going? Patrick Mahomes or the worst team in the league? Right.
Exactly. Even if you gave him an extra $5 million per year, I'm going to Kansas City.
You're still going to Kansas City. So it just, all the money in the world to have to spend is great, but you can't always convince the guys to take it. But like you said, Juwan Taylor was my guy. I said he was my guy because I thought that he was Pole's guy. I thought that he's 6'5", 320, so a little bit bigger than 6'4", 315. But he was the guy. He's athletic and get after it. And I think the market, the NFL, kind of validated that stance that he was the prize tackle. Orlando Brown, he's obviously a very good player, right? But you're talking about scheme fit and you talk about that vision for the team. He's 6'8", 340. That's not the Athletics, 6'4", 315. Maybe if the Bears are at a different part in the rebuild, maybe it is 2025, right? And we still haven't solved the tackle issue. Well, then you just go sign a very good player who might not be ideal because you need to get somebody in that position. But we're just not there in the rebuild yet, right?
It's probably why I should stop mock drafting DeJuan Jones in the second round to Chicago, because he's like an Orlando Brown.
Is that the Ohio State kid?
Yeah, the right tackle in Ohio State, because
Yeah.
he's also like that
Huge.
same thing. He's like 6'8", 360. Like,
Yeah, he's huge. But bringing up the draft, I mean, I do think there are a lot of tackles in this draft.
Yeah.
And I would rather them take a guy, have him learn their system at an affordable price, and you build him into the system, than to go $2 million above what McGlinchey made, and then you regret it 3 years in.
I would have been okay with like a short 2-year deal for McGlinchey, because you get this guy who's fine. He's fine. And you can groom maybe a 4th, 5th round pick into, taking him over eventually, that type of thing. But,
I think
he's going to take that money from the Broncos every time. And again, the Broncos are in a different
Can't
part
say no.
of their build. Like, they have the quarterback. They have no draft
Just
capital.
got a new coach.
Now is the time you buy an offensive line and just try to make it work.
So when we were at, and no one knows who Julie is, but when we were at Bob's wife's birthday, we were talking about these guys, and that's when Bob started to sway me. Like, it kind of like got in my mind, and then I was like, yeah, you're right. And I completely kind of changed my thought process on it. But I think we kind of came to the conclusion that all three of them would have been an upgrade.
It would have been an
over
upgrade,
what they had.
right.
So had they signed any of them.
And I think that's the needle that Poles is trying to – you want to make sure that you improve your roster from last year, but you don't want to do it in a way that might stop you from getting to that ideal 2025 state.
Right. And he said something like, this team is going to have weak points in it.
Yeah.
And you hope to have built something where, hey, they got a 2024 first that they extra. They have a 2025 second that's extra.
You
You
got to
keep
get to
doing
that next section. There's a lot.
He's building this through the draft, like he said from the get-go.
And again, believe what this man is telling us. Like, he's not out there,
he does
just saying
what he
whatever.
says. Like keeping David Montgomery.
Well, that's what I was going to
He
say.
never said he was going to keep David Montgomery. He said he would love to.
Yes.
And then just didn't.
Okay, let's touch on that. He kind of said the same thing about Roquan Smith too.
Yeah, and which I'm kind of concerned about Darnell Mooney at this point.
That was an open negotiation.
Because he has come out
Yeah,
very highly on
right.
Mooney, the same way he has come out highly on Montgomery. And here's the thing. I think we've talked about it enough on this show. Neither of us were like, you have to keep David Montgomery, right?
It was always at the right price.
It was always at the right price. Now, granted, I feel like $6 million per year is at the right price. But at the same time, I wasn't sad to see him go. I was sad to see him go to Detroit. Like, I just don't want to see him in the division, because he is one of those guys. He's like a great leader. Yeah. Like, he's one of those guys who's great with the fans. Like, and you can see the work ethic. He puts it out on the field. He's never going to give you like negative yardage. He's always falling forward. He's an all-around really good player. He's not a great player, but a really good player. And those are needed on every football team. So I was sad to see him go to Detroit. I'm not so sad to see him leave. But the culture,
it's a tough spot, right? Because he's obviously a good player, and as Bear fans, you love David Montgomery.
Yes.
You love David Montgomery, right? But it's kind of like some of these other positions right now in the rebuild. I think they want a more explosive playmaker in the backfield. So you're going to commit 3 years to a guy who isn't the guy that ideally you want. Stop you from acquiring that guy. So I get it objectively, but as a Bears fan, it's like, I love him. And I'm kind of happy for him, actually, that he landed. For him, I'm happy he landed in Detroit. Physical team that is going to let him be the emotional heart and soul of their physical attack. And it just, he's got those Bears games circled already.
It's funny because Jamal Williams was that for them.
Exactly.
And they just let him walk.
That's what I was about to say.
Screw you, dude.
Right.
17 touchdowns last year.
We're just going to
The
get a
grass
better
must
version
always
of you.
be green. The turf is greener on the other
It
side.
didn't take him long to re-sign, though. I did see he re-signed.
Saints?
Oh, he did? I didn't.
Saints, I think?
Okay.
I didn't remember the team, so maybe it is New Orleans.
Don't quote me on that. I don't know.
But he did re-sign. It wasn't even. It was probably within a couple hours of the Montgomery news breaking. But are we concerned, like you said with Mooney? Are we concerned that Pace is is it just that I said Pace again? Poles.
You caught yourself.
I actually didn't catch it that.
I didn't catch it either.
Yeah.
Is it just that Poles, these are not Poles guys, right? Like, yes, he's speaking highly of them. Like, sure, he's giving them credit, but like, they're not his
That's
guys.
part of it. That's part of it. And like saying good things about a person. I mean, I don't know David Montgomery. Interviews, press conferences, and what people say about him, he seems like a good dude. He seems like a leader.
Yeah.
Saying those things is giving him his flowers. It doesn't mean you're going to give him $18 million. And I think if he's your guy, like Poles is bringing in people, when his people come up, he might feel a little differently, but they match exactly the master plan he has, as opposed to people he's acquired.
That's exactly what I got written down here, right? It's not enough just to be doing the right things in the building and being productive. You have to do the right things. You have to be productive and fit the vision that he wants, right? Quinn and Mack were too old. Roquan was too small. Montgomery isn't explosive enough, right? It's like,
so I'm glad you mentioned explosiveness again. So I plug the show way too much, but CHGO Bears or CHGO Sports, Greg Braggs keeps throwing out this joke that he's never ran a 25-yard run, which clearly isn't true. But I mean, it is kind of how it seems, right? Like he is, and he's not an outside zone runner. Like he's literally in the gap type running back, which you need even in an outside zone, because you need those in just like goal line and short yardage situations. But now they have Justin Fields, those when QB sneaks in, and Cole Kmet sneaks all the time, sneaks. So we'll be fine.
I prefer those.
But yeah, like clearly the explosiveness had a lot to do with it. You know, he's not a home run hitter where you saw Khalil Herbert run 50-yard runs like very consistently.
Right. I mean, he led the league in yards per carry.
Yeah, him and Tony Pollard, right? Were probably like
I mean, I was
neck and neck.
Pollard was the guy that I really had circled to try to get in here, and then the franchise tag stuff.
But, I don't know. Like towards the end there, though, it seemed like Montgomery might have known that he was out, and so to the point where if Bears had even come in and matched the offer, I don't know that he would have taken it.
When he wiped his Instagram clean, I think at that point him and Poles probably had a conversation. Very interesting.
1 year, $3 million, David?
Yeah, I heard 4.5 to 5. So
okay. All right,
but 1 year,
just 1 year though.
I mean, I didn't hear the years, but my guess is it was probably no more than 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's what he ended up getting Freeman at, right? The 4.5 or 3, 4.5.
Yeah.
1 year,
1 year,
$3
$3 million.
Yeah,
So I mean, it really speaks to the bigger issue that, and I don't know if it's an issue, but it's the reality that the running back position is just one where you draft a guy, you wait till his rookie deal is over, and then you draft someone else.
Are you ever like, okay, I don't understand how anyone, and I guess and my kids will never be this way because my kids will probably never play football. They're obsessed with soccer. How do you decide that you want to be a running back? Like, you know, you're never going to get paid. And
you don't have hands and you're a little short.
You just like, getting the ball so much, right? Yeah. You just willing to. Yeah,
that's true.
But you're right. Absolutely right.
Do you guys have any other guys that you felt like they missed on? Or we'll quote the missed here. Joey from Friends missed.
I mean, I know it's a guy you guys really like, but he went to Denver as well, right? Ben Powers.
Oh, Ben Powers.
Yeah. I forgot about the one that got away, and now the contract was much bigger than what we signed Nate Davis for.
Yeah.
I mean, my only connection was Baltimore, and when the Bears actually seemed to ascend, even though it didn't show up in any kind of wins.
Right.
It was when they said, "Hey, we looked at what Baltimore's running and feel like Fields can run that kind of stuff. So why not get a guy who was successful in that system?"
Because I don't feel like Tennessee runs an outside zone. I mean, I feel like Derrick Henry is a gap.
That was one thing though that Poles specifically mentioned about Davis when he talked about him today was that excellent pass blocker.
Yeah.
So I think they weren't necessarily worried about the run scheme. It's like when we call a pass play, this guy's going to prevent that pressure up the middle.
Right. Which now I'm wondering though, do you put him on the left side to Braxton, because Braxton was a better pass blocker? I mean, he was pretty average in both. He's kind of like a McGlinchey, but on the left side.
I didn't want to challenge either one of you at the time, but I actually thought
that's the best part of the show.
No, I understand. Absolutely, that's what we're doing, but I didn't feel passionately about it. But
it wasn't a Justin's rant.
No Justin rant coming on this. But when you guys said move Jenkins over to left, I feel like Jenkins was almost shook when he was told he was going inside at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know how and plus his injury history. I just feel like he did well at this one spot. I'd try him there. And this other guy who has a much longer track record. He's a bit more of a pro.
Again, we're talking Bears because that's what we're doing here. We're talking Bears, right? But it's March 16th.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
It doesn't matter what we think is going to be today. Let's see what happens.
They're going to figure out who the best 5 is.
Right.
We saw it happen last year with Braxton Jones coming from the 3rd string all the way to the starting position. So
it's a good example.
Yeah. All right.
All right, we're going to take another break
Yeah.
and then finish up with one more segment after this.